Shalom, it's me, Baht, and today I'm going to discuss in detail Amos 3, verse 3. Can two walk together if they are not agreed? I'm going there on this informative and reflective podcast. Y4T, count me in. All right now, family, this is a touchy topic, so let's go ahead and dig in and not leave any stones unturned, if possible, of course. To include, I'm going to give my own personal testimony on today's topic. Now, some people in long-term relationships, to include marriage, which is very much a covenant family, where they are not spiritually compatible, which they are only in it for the sake of surviving, but in all actuality, their ruach is not going to survive without proper guidance, alliance with Yahweh. But once again, how can you get there if two are not agreed in spiritual union? All right, let's continue. In Exodus 23, verse 32 through 33, and it states from TORAH, "Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods." 33, "They shall not dwell in the land, lest they make thee sin against me, for thou wilt serve their gods, for they will be a snare unto thee." Now, you might be asking, how does that tie into Amos 3 verse 3? And it ties in this way. The first part of verse 32, where it states, "Thou shalt not make no covenant with them." You can look at it like this, family. If you are married or in a courtship with someone who is not going to accept and honor and submit to your Elohim, Yahweh, and you choose to continue that marriage or that courtship with knowing this, that is a covenant that you have made with them. Now, in verse 32, where it says, "nor with their gods," that means you have some who, once again, are in these marriages or in these courtships where the person they are with is not willing to submit. However, they're still partaking in pagan holidays such as Easter, which is coming up, to include Xmas, whom some like to refer to as Christmas, which is so-called the birthday of a false god, to include Valentine's Day and other rituals like that. When you are in these courtships or these marriages, and that spouse or partner that you are with are telling you willfully and boldly that they're not going to submit to your Elohim, and they're going to continue to do this and that, and you need to get on board before you be put out. You have submitted. And then, furthermore, whenever they go to these pagan events and they tell you that you're coming with them and you go, you have submitted to their gods. And sometimes you do this knowingly and unknowingly. But the reason you are doing this is because of what? Tapping into survival mode. I gotta have a roof over my head, and peace in my home, so I will submit to this foreign god who I and my ancestors know nothing about, just to appease and keep the marriage or the courtship that I am with this other person. Now, verse 33, where it states, they shall not dwell in thy land. If you look at that like this, the ones in the union's marriage, you are dwelling in a home with someone who worships other gods. So that would mean you are dwelling in the land where idolatry is being committed every single day. Big con. All right now, and with doing this, it will cause you to sin against Yahweh, your creator. All right, so I do pray that was a great breakdown to help you understand. Okay, now let's move on to our next precept, which is going to be Numbers 15, verse 39, also from TORAH. Not to follow the whims of your heart or what your eyes see. Now, being stated again, courtship and marriage. Yisraelites whom are in these positions with someone who does not follow Yah, nor has any want to follow Yah or excitement about following Yahweh, and you want to keep them happy and keep that relationship covenant that you have with that person, God shows that you are going after what you want from your own heart's lustful understanding of being with that person. God, your heart is supposed to be reserved for Yahweh, not nobody else at all. So when you are pushing Yahweh to the side to soothe your heartaches and your feelings and your emotions that you have for another individual to stay in bed with that person, do you have to look at it like this? How do you fit in Deuteronomy 6, where you are supposed to love Yahweh with all your heart? How can you do that if you're willing to hold on to a marriage or a courtship where Yahweh from the other person now is not present in their life? It can't be done. But let's continue. Exodus 20, verse 5, and it states, not to worship idols in the manner they are worshipped, which puts us back at these pagan holidays and your participation in them because of your spouse. And not just the pagan holidays, but to include pagan rituals. Big con. Now, an example that I would like to give to you to break down this verse according to the topic that we are speaking of, Amos 3 verse 3, is this. A Yisraelite married to a Buddhist. A Yisraelite married to a Muslim. A Yisraelite married to a Christian. But the biggest one of it all is a Yisraelite following Torah Tanakh married to a Messianic Yisraelite. Okay. That's two different gods. So, whenever you find yourselves in situations like that, family, you have to really pinpoint it for what it is, which is y'all cannot pray together. You can't do it. Y'all will consistently have division in your homes. You will consistently have division within your dietary laws. And you will consistently have division on how you upraise your children, family. Now, when you are in bed with these other people, who do not serve your creator, and you have children involved, you do know that those who have the children, they long to have their child be accepted by allowing them to do such holidays as Christmas, some things such as Easter, Valentine's Day, and things like that. So it'll be hard for you to get the female or the male that you are married to, right, to understand that this is not your way of life that you've chosen, and to halt and stop ultimately the way that you're teaching the children to go and serve other gods through pagan holidays. That's going to be hard. You know it's going to be hard. So once again, that leaves hell, Sheol, in the home, okay? And confusion. And we both know that Yahweh does not deal with confusion. Now, well, you say to yourself, well, what do we have left if I'm married to this person and I can't do my holy days, which we just had, what was that, Passover, and we're in Feast of Unleavened Bread, last day. So if you're unable to do those things around the person that you are married to, what you very well should be able to do those, right? If that person is on the same page. Big. But what do you have left in a house divided like that, spiritually divided, that is? You only have sex. You only have sex left. And not just that, you have the thought of you going outside and having validation from other people who may or may not know you to look at you like, hey, he got him a beautiful woman, or hey, she has a handsome man. You just soak it in, all that attention and all that sex. And neither one of those have anything to do with the Most High Yahweh. None. All right, so ask yourself once again, family, if you are in that situation, how can two walk together lest they be agreed? Now, let's move on to our next precept, which is going to be Deuteronomy 7, verse 3. Deuteronomy 7, verse 3, and it states, not to marry non-Israelites. Now, in this precept, you have to make very clear, okay, to whom you are in a courtship with, that they have to adhere, submit, and follow the covenant of Yahweh, your Elohim, before going into a covenant with you, which means they have to be circumcised via their foreskin, not of their heart. Okay? They do have to do that. And that's for the men from these other nations that you wish to take on. Now, if it's another female from another nation that you wish to take on, she would have to denounce her deity of her race or of her nation. And solely follow Yahweh, your Elohim, to include wear the apparel of a Israelite woman. Now, family, if you're still with me, let's jump into our wisdom on this topic. And as I promised, I'm going to use my personal testimony in regards to Amos 3, verse 3. Let's continue. Psalms 26, verse 5. I have hated the assembly of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. This passage expresses a strong aversion to the company of evildoers, indicating a desire to avoid any association with them. Salakia. Psalms 11, verse 5. Yahweh hates the wicked. This verse highlights the divine disfavor of the wicked, further discouraging in any closeness or association with them. You heard me right, family. I'm going to read that one more time. This verse, which is Psalms 11, verse 5, highlights the divine disfavor of the wicked, further discouraging any closeness or association with them. Meaning, you have to sweep them from your midst. Which means you remove yourself. Okay? All right. Proverbs 21, verse 9. And it states, "It is better to live in a corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a quarrelsome wife." And this also is pointing at men as husbands too. Okay? This Proverbs warns against the detrimental effects of a quarrelsome and negative partner, suggesting that it is better to be alone than to live with someone who causes constant conflict. Now, the example I given before, based off of someone telling you that they're not going to follow your Elohim Yahweh or submit to his laws, instructions, statutes, and commandments, and then willfully telling you, no, I'm just not going to do it. And you're going to do such and such and such and such so you can stay with me, or so you can have a roof to lay in, or so you can continue to do this that makes you happy. That is exactly what that is speaking about, God, in that verse. And ultimately, that brings destruction, not just to the person that is telling you the things they're not going to do, but also to destruction of your own ruach, God. And also, if you feel like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do what you want me to do so I can keep you happy, so I don't have to be met with the cons from you, the flesh, and not the cons from the Elohim, Yahweh, then that means you have given your power over to another. And if you're a man, you gave your power over to that woman. And kings will be destroyed whenever they do things like that. So always keep that in mind, okay? All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell my personal story real quick before I end out this podcast. I have come into the truth in 2022, okay? But I was still a messy in it, and I was married as well. Now, I will tell you this. While I was going through my transformation from light to dark, Hebrew, right? And seeking out Yahweh, whom I know him as now, my ex-husband, whom I was married to, was very upset and mad at me to the point where he told me he feels like he lost his wife because I did not ask his permission to go seek a higher power. Now, when somebody tells you something like that, family, that you are married to, that is a huge red flag. And not only is that a red flag, that is a huge wake-up call that Yahweh needed you to see. Or, in that case, me. For me to see. That this person whom I was married to ain't know nothing about Yahweh, wasn't even trying to search for Yahweh, and wanted me to stop my path spiritually of growth to continue to be in a stagnant position in Babylon with him. Yahweh will pull you from the marriage bed if he sees that you are fit to be a servant of him. He will pull you from the marriage bed. Sometimes he doesn't pull you both. Sometimes he just pulls one and not the other. And sometimes he does do that in order to show you, the person who is being pulled, that, hey, you are not the person I should have been with in the first place. And then you'll sit there and you'll reflect on things that you went through in your past, when those red flags in your past should have been your light bulbs to make you turn around and leave that situation before you hit the marriage. Okay? Now, I will say we've all been there. I know I have. To this day, it's some things I look back on from that previous marriage, like, dang, yeah? Dang. I knew better. I just didn't do better because at that time, I didn't want to do better. I felt like the person I was with was more important for me to hold on to than to hold on constructing and improving my soul for the Most High Yahweh. I felt like if I lost that relationship, that marriage that I was in, that my whole life would be over. When in fact, Yahweh told me now, right, that if you let what I'm trying to take away from you go, I will sustain you. I will replace better for you. And the Most High, Yahweh, he did exactly what he said through his precepts unto my ears into my life. So I had no choice but to submit fully to the Most High Yahweh. And in my submittance to Yahweh, I was able to have a righteous partner as I do now. All right? So, in conclusion, family, I leave you with this. You have to love Yahweh with all your heart. Not allow the person you are married to or in a courtship with taint that love that you have for Yahweh by causing havoc on your life. At the end of the day, you have to stop and think that maybe the things happening to me while in this current courtship or marriage may be a sign from Yahweh that you need to adhere to him and to the same instructions from TORAH that you have chose to uphold. Shalom, Barakai.